Hi everyone, this is video 4 of my breakdown of Eureka, Edgar Allan Poe's final and most misunderstood work. If you've been following along, you know that Eureka is the bridge between literature, spirituality, science, and metaphysics. If you're new here, my name is DeFlor, and I am breaking down Eureka section by section to uncover what Edgar Allan Poe understood about the creation of the universe. You can watch previous videos to Eureka at Is About Ethereal. If you want to read the section of Eureka that I am discussing, the link is in the comments with my own annotations. You can follow me across all platforms to stay connected for more content like this. In the first video, we began with Poe's idea of original unity. In the beginning was no stars, no atoms, no light, just a single indivisible whole. The one diffused into many suns, worlds, particles, consciousness. Creation for Poe is the act of unity becoming multiplicity. In the second video, we explore finite and the infinite. Poe tells us infinity isn't an endless distance, but an endless possibility. The finite universe can expand, but not without limits. Everything that expands must eventually return. The universe, he says, is not falling apart because it's held in a perfect rhythm of expansion and reunion. Then, in the third video, we enter the scientific world of Newton, where Poe was already speaking about the ideas of the anticipated law of Einstein's relativity. In that video, we explored gravity not as a simple force, but as the universe soul. For Poe, gravity is the yearning to all things to return to their source. It's not just attraction, it's memory. It's a cosmic remembrance of the one. And now, in this fourth video, we go deeper into that mystery. We enter the section I like to call the divine law behind gravity. Here, Poe explains how matter was diffused from unity and how it spreads geometrically, and how gravity itself became the instrument of return to the reaction of the first act of creation. Poe begins this section by imagining the original act of diffusion. Every atom, he says, was once gathered in perfect unity. Then, through divine violation, through will, those atoms were sent outward in every direction, not randomly, but equally, geometrically, and intentionally. This is what he calls irradiation. It's the pulse that sends creation outward like a light from the center. The atoms move away, filling the space, but never escape the sphere created by the first motion. Each pulse weakens as it expands until it reaches the outer edge of the sphere, and then the return begins. The universe breathes out through irradiation and breathes in through gravity. Two movements, one law. In the outward pulse, it is the exhale of God, and gravity is the inhale of return to the source. And that's the rhythm Poe says we're all living within. He explains that these atoms move outward and they move with order, not chaos. Each particle holds a relation with each other particle. Their diffusion follows an exact geometric proportion, the same inverse square law that defines light, gravity, and sound. So creation isn't random, it's geometric. And because geometry repeats according to divine law, creation gives the appearance of infinity in design. For Poe, the universe itself is finite because it has an end, and its end is to return to one. But the pattern that moves through the universe is endless. Infinity, he says, isn't something beyond us. It's repetition of divine order within us. He says that if you could see the whole structure, the way atoms expand and return, you'd realize the universe is built like a living equation, and that equation is the expression of divine will. Once these atoms reach the edge of expansion and go no further, they are pulled back by gravity. That's the moment where irradiation reverses itself. Every atom begins its journey back home. So, Poe's system of gravity isn't a mystery, but it's a pull back to origin. It's the same law acting in reverse, the same geometry that has scattered matter and now gathers it. And because everything expands and returns, Poe says the entire cosmos is one continuous act, not two. Creation and return are not opposites. They are the phases of the same divine motion. At this point, Poe adds something that still feels revolutionary today. He says that even the sun, it is one condensation point in the universal return. In other words, the sun wasn't separately created. It's a gathering of atoms that were once diffused and drawn together by the same universal law of gravity. He describes the sun as having once been an enormous sphere, billions of miles wide, but slowly it was condensed into its form, and now he says that condensation isn't finished. The same law that created the sun is continuing to act within it. Creation never stops. And from the sun's mass, other small condensations came out of it, like the planets, each one holding the same balance between centrifugal, centripetal forces, between outward and inward motion, between the urge to expand and the will to return. Poe then shifts from physical to the divine again. He says the more we study these motions, gravity, orbit, light, the clearer it becomes they are not random. They are too harmonious, too ordered. He calls the harmony the evidence of divinity itself. The law of beauty is the law of truth. Even if there is inconsistencies in the details, even if one planet behaves differently than the other, the larger pattern holds. The beauty of the whole system is proof of divine origin. For Poe, science and spirituality are not opposites. They are a reflection of one another. Science shows us how God acts. Spirituality shows us why. Now, this is where Poe begins to challenge his readers directly. He says, modern science is too focused on what he calls secondary causes. We describe how things move, gravity, momentum, velocity, but we ignore the motion on why they exist at all. He argues that there must be a first cause, something before gravity, before light, before the first atom. He names the first cause divine volition, the will of God. He calls it not a finger reaching out downward to the planets, but a living law that sustains itself. What he calls continuous violation. God doesn't interfere in nature. God is nature, the divine will that never stops expressing itself through the balance of things. Then Poe says something striking. He calls it cowardly to separate science from divinity. He says the fear of merging them is the fear of thinking freely, and that fear keeps us from seeing the truth, that nature and God are one and the same. If God is omniscient and omnipotent, then every atom, every orbit, every force must already be part of the divine design. There can be no chaos, no accident, no contradiction. Even what looks like randomness is order that we cannot grasp. He says that anyone who divests themselves of prejudice, anyone willing to see clearly, we'll recognize that nature is law just expressing itself in the same principle, and that principle is unity, the one expressing itself as many, then the gathering of itself again. This is what Poe calls the principle of cosmology, the foundation of his entire theory. And all things, all forces, all laws, consequence to a single act, the diffusion of unity into multiplicity, and it's destined to return. In one sentence, Poe fuses physics, philosophy, spirituality into a single truth. The universe is God in motion. He closes the section with his final correction to science. He rejects the image of the divine hand, setting the motions of the planets. He calls it childish. The true cause, he says, lies in the natural return of atoms towards the source. Rotation and motion are not imposed from the outside. They arise naturally from an inward pull of divine law. Gravity itself, he says, is the mode of return. It's the proof that everything longs to reunite with the one. When he calls gravity the reaction to the first act, he means that the universe is still reacting to the original creation, still returning from the moment it first expanded. Everything that exists is part of a single breath, the outward and inward motion of God. And in his final line, he brings it all together. He says, well, all things were thus constituted a portion of God, meaning that everything that exists is divine in nature. Every atom, every law, every thought, every form are all fragments of God in motion. The universe isn't separate from its source, and its source is still expressing itself. So, in this fourth section of Eureka, Poe shows us how gravity, geometry, and divinity converge. Diffusion becomes creation, irradiation becomes motion, gravity becomes return, and divine violation, becoming the will behind it all. So this is why Edgar Allan Poe matters, because he dared to merge science and spirit. He saw the law of nature was not mechanical, but intentional. That what we call gravity, light, and motion are just the visible faces of living intelligence. The universe is not a machine, it's a memory, a continuous remembrance of the one that created it. Thank you for watching. This is my fourth video to my Eureka series. If you haven't seen the previous videos, you can find them in the link below, www.belladeflor.com. If you found value in this work, please give me a like, share, subscribe, and message so I can reach more minds who are ready to hear this. I'm Bella DeFlor, and I will see you in the next video.